So, sir, pwede niyo po ba kaming kwentuhan kung paano po kayo napunta sa field of journalism?
Well, I took my undergraduate degree here in UP. I finished BA Broadcast Communication cum laude in 2012. So, after that, I did my internship in GMA News. So, sa investigative documentary, Sigma Lumakahas. So, before I even graduated, I was hired as a researcher in GMA Network in Kapuso mo, Jessica Soho. Tapos, I did a lot of off-cam work in GMA. I became a researcher, producer, and writer in State of the Nation with Jessica Soho. Writer sa 24 Oras, sa Unang Hirit, and other shows before I transferred to PTV, Channel 4, for my reportorial debut. That's the first time, in 2015, na naging reporter ako. I stayed in PTV for 2 years. I covered a lot of news events until in October 2017, I got a chance to apply ABS-CBN. I made it. So, I've been in ABS-CBN News for 7 years now.
So, sa kwento niyo po, sir,
Oh.
ilan taon po kayo nung nag-start po kayong magsulat? Like, bata pa po ba kayo nung alam niyo na po sa sarili niyo na journalism po yung field na pwede pong tahakin?
Actually, I finished, dito kasi in UP, magkahiwalay yung course sa journalism at broadcast communication. So when I entered UP, my first degree is journalism. High school lang ako when I started writing. But I felt like my heart is on television and radio, so after 3 semesters, I shifted to broadcast communication around 2009.
So, nabanggit niyo po, sir, so nagtrabaho po kayo sa GMA, so sa PTV, and then sa ABS-CBN. Ano po yung mga pagkakaiba po ng mga experience niyo po sa tatlong TV network station po?
Siyempre, medyo similar GMA at ABS kasi commercial media siya. So, parang the structure is very much the same. Sa PTV, it's different because it's state-owned and that iba ang values na isang network na pag-aari ng gobyerno because you put prime to what the government would say. Unlike in ABS-CBN, we put prime on voices of the people. Diba? Ano yung issue ng taong bayan, hindi issue ng gobyerno nila necessarily. Diba? So, yun, ABS-CBN, what yung pagkakaiba? Kasi sa employment status ko iba. I only became a regular employee in ABS-CBN. I was not a regular employee in GMA. I was not a regular employee in PTV. Diba? So, it's editorial-wise, may pagkakaiba. So, labor, pagkakaiba. So, it's very, very different. So the big challenges, of course, if you have been a voter in 2022, is that VP Lenny went around the country every day. So parang it was a logistical challenge for us to be chasing her around the country all the time because one day I'm in Cagayan and the next day you have to be in Siquijor, and it was very challenging to chase her. Kasi she went around the country. Sometimes in the morning, she would be late and then the afternoon sa Bohol na siya. So parang yung pagkakabol namin sa kanya, it was a logistical challenge. It was a physically tiring event because we didn't have a day off for how many months because we just kept on chasing her.
Kumbaga po, sir, parang sinusundan niyo po siya kung saan man po siya sa Pilipinas pumunta po.
Yeah.
Ayun po, sir.
So, pagdating naman po sa local po, wala po ba kayong mga political dynasties po na interview po?
Local elections?
Mga governor po, mayor, wala po bang?
Well, not during campaign season. Or for example, na-interview ko yung mga mayor ng iba't ibang bayan sa Camarines Sur, nung Christine, but that's not elections. During my first elections here in ABS-CBN, it was in 2019, I covered precincts, not necessarily politicians. In 2022, I only covered solely Gabriel and Pangilinan.
So, wala naman po ba kayong na, ano, sir, yung, for example, tulad po na sinabi, si VP Lenny po yung inaano niya. So, hindi po ba parang, wala po ba kayong natatanggap na threats kung dahil sa yung pag-cover niyo po kay VP Lenny?
Wala naman masyadong threats. Madaming bashing. Madaming people from other camps would always bash us. But that's how life is. Diba? For sure, we've had a much better time than those covering BBM at that time. Because I've heard that my friends who were covering BBM and Sarah had a much harder time than we did because Lenny's camp was much friendlier to media than BBM's camp.
So, nung nakarang eleksyon po, sir, napansin naman po natin kung paano po natin sa dalawang panig or kulay ang publiko. So, as a journalist po, doing your work and career, have you experienced po being attacked by trolls? And if yes, how did you manage po to counter the allegations of trolls po from a journalistic ethical perspective?
Hindi naman sure dalawang panig lang nahati yung taong bayan ng 2022 elections. There were more than 5 candidates who ran for presidency. Di ba? So it would not be accurate for us to say that nahati tayo na dalawa parang what happened to the US elections recently. So, trolls, yes, we have dealt with a lot of trolls, not just in campaign. We deal with trolls almost every day, especially during Duterte's time, because that was the peak, I guess, of trolling. That was the peak of the disinformation machineries. But yeah, during campaign, it's really, really heightened because hate speech, accounts, troll farms are out there to discredit the candidate. So, and VP Lenny faced a lot of trolls at that time. Siyempre, dami yung mga report na nag-cover sa akin. Sorry, may sinisipon
as a
ako.
journalist po, alam naman po natin na bribery is very common in our country, especially in the elections which became a hidden propaganda po. So, from your experience po, are there any instance that you've experienced na being bribed by someone or offered monetary payment po?
No, I don't think, VP Lenny's campaign was run by people who barely had no funds to run the campaign with, so we never had to deal with bribery at that time.
So, ano po, gamit po yung experience niyo sa pagko-cover po ng election, ano po yung challenges ng ating bansa, pati po sa ating pong mga Pilipino sa paparating po ng midterm election? And ano po sa tingin niyo yung magiging difference nito sa 2022 election?
Ano ulit? The struggle ng Pilipinas?
Ano po yung magiging challenges? Ano po yung...
So the biggest challenge of the Filipinos is how to select the good candidates from a pool of candidates who are not qualified for the job.
So, ano po yung your point of view po? Ano po yung magiging difference po ng 2022 election?
Well, for one, 2022 election is a presidential election. It's always much different. You cannot compare a midterm election to a presidential election because no one is running for president in 2025. You're only running for the Senate. So it's a lax, it's a much more, it would be intense, but it would not be as intense as 2022 because the highest positions are not in stake in 2025.
So ano po yung challenge po sa, halimbawa po, yung pag-select po ng mga senador po ng mga Pilipino po?
Well, as you have seen during the filing of candidacy, a lot of the candidates are coming from our influencers, so it might be hard for people to check who are actually qualified for the job.
So, as you said po, sir, ano po yung mga strategies na maaari niyo pong influence po sa public to choose the right politician po na makaka-help sa ano po ng country natin?
But it's not for us to tell the public who to vote for. So as media people, we're just here to report what happens during campaigns, to fact check the backgrounds of the candidates, just to tell the people about their platforms and their agenda. But it's not like we are influencing people who to vote for. It's beyond our part of the job. But we can encourage voters to, of course, check the backgrounds, be proactive in consuming information that are factual, tune into legitimate news sites for developments regarding the campaign and the elections. Well, you can see the party system in the US is very strong. So you only have two major parties competing. 'Di ba? And in the US, you don't vote for the president and the vice president separately. You only vote for a party, 'di ba? Parang if you vote for Kamala, you automatically vote for her vice presidential candidate. If you vote for Donald Trump, it's you're voting for his vice presidential candidate. Sa Pilipinas, it's personality driven. 'Di ba? Sino gusto mo iboto? Si Lenny, BBM, sino mas ano ka? 'Di ba? In the US, it's more belief system. Ano ba ang mga beliefs mo? Are you more Republican or more of a Democrat? It's very different. I don't think it's identical. Siguro the side that people are pointing out is that it felt like Lenny and BBM running. So parang they saw similarities between Lenny and Kamala and then BBM and Trump. But the system is much different. We cannot even compare because it's very different, diba? Here we have a virtually non-existent party system. We don't even know the difference between the beliefs of the party of nationalista or liberal, diba? Parang magkaiba, diba? We don't vote based on our principles. We just vote who we think are the personalities that we believe in, di ba? So, di ba? Parang is miles away ang pagkakaiba ng politika ng Pilipinas at Amerika.
So, ano po yung magiging challenge po ng pagkapanalo po ni Donald Trump para sa Pilipinas po?
No, again, it's not for me to say, but based from what I'm reading, and a lot of his policies are anti-immigrants. A lot of his policies are anti-LGBT. So people in the US would feel this, di ba? There are 300,000 undocumented Filipinos in the US who are on the verge of being repatriated back to the Philippines. Magde-deport sila, di ba? So sa job, siguro, they want to hire Americans first, so they might stop business outsourcing, so baka maapektuhan ng BPO natin. We're not sure. I mean, he has just won. He has not even started his term. So let's see. No, I don't think we can. Yeah, citizen journalism is very much alive in ABS-CBN. We have a lot of bayan patrollers, but we do not relegate political and campaign coverage to citizen journalists. We assign our professional reporters to cover the campaign because it's not easy for people untrained people to cover elections. Elections is a very big event in the media.
So, sir, balik po tayo sa US election. So, nasabi niyo po kanina na napakalaki po ng difference. So, sa US po, napakita po nila nung November 5 na parang napakalakas po ng sense of ideology po sa kanila po. So, makikita po natin si Donald Trump is illegal immigrant. So, si Kamala Harris parang more on social justice po yung political ideology niya. So, sa Pilipinas po, what do you think po para mapalakas po yung ideology po? Kasi parang yung mga Pilipino po parang tinitignan lang po. Iboboto ko to kasi artista, sikat, ganun. Influencers, mapera.
Alam mo, sa totoo lang, I don't think that will even get there. With the system that we have right now, it's personality driven. I don't think that it's even possible within our lifetime to be close to that ideology-driven elections.
So, do you believe po, sir, kailangan po baguhin po yung sistema po ng party?
Maybe, yes. It really depends. No, I don't know how it would affect our democracy, but maybe these are questions that you should ask a political analyst and not a reporter.
So, paano niyo po nahihikayat, and ano po yung strategy po ninyo para yung mga, or paano po ninyo, ang tawag dito, somewhat, mapag-report po na talagang may encourage po ninyo yung makapagbigay po ng information kung paano po bumoto ng maayos yung Pilipino po.
Again, we report on developments, on stance on issues, on candidates, platforms. So it's still up for the Filipinos to vote who they think is best. I think voter education happens beyond the media. Voter education happens in schools, in families, in other ideological state apparatuses. There are a lot of factors that influence how people vote, and it's not just the media. Number one, the family influences someone's vote. A school, educational background, the church, a lot of things factor in when it comes to voter education. No? Filipinos, of course, Philippine media, of course, we encourage people to be more critical about the candidates that they are choosing by reporting on the truths about these candidates. But we cannot assure that even if we report the truth 24/7, we cannot still assure that Filipinos will vote right. Because, um, we are not arbiters of morality. Di naman namin pwedeng sabihin na if iboboto ng mga tao si Willie Revillame, mali yun. Sino ba kami para magsabi na mali iboto si Willie Revillame? Diba? Kung sa tingin ng mga tao, si Willie Revillame ang karapat dapat maging senador, you have to respect that because this is a democracy. Diba? We might not agree with how people would vote and who would they be voting for, but we have to respect that decision because this is a democracy.